Welcome to TV Tennessee Valley Church. This week we're outside the facilities of the wonderful Hudson Alpha, a nonprofit institute for biotechnology, one of North Alabama's coolest places. Have you ever been to a Hawaiian luau? Years ago, my wife Carrie and I went to Hawaii for a meeting and stayed afterwards with two friends to tour a couple of the islands. While we were there, I just had to go to a luau. I know it's touristy and all that, but I just had to go. And I loved it. I loved the music and the show and the meal and the tradition. Luau's date back hundreds of years. Going to a luau was the thing to do in Hawaii. I really enjoyed it, but it didn't really hold deep meaning for me as luau's do for native Hawaiians. Hawaiian luau's originally celebrated special occasions like victories in battle. Luau's also honored the traditional gods of the islands. For me to go to a luau was a great experience, but the luau held no deep meaning for me. In the same way, there are probably some really good folks watching this for whom Easter is much like the luau was for me. You appreciate, even enjoy the traditions, but maybe Easter doesn't hold deep meaning for you because you aren't really certain about the resurrection of Jesus. Now, Travis, don't misunderstand. It's not like I completely dismiss the resurrection or anything like that. I'm not writing everything off. I'm just not certain. I just have doubts. I get it, and it's okay. Really, this is a safe conversation. If you're uncertain about the resurrection of Jesus and other things spiritual, you're not the first one. Even lots of Bible writers were a bit uncertain about the ways of God. The writers of Job, Ecclesiastes, Psalms, and Lamentations, they expressed some serious uncertainties about God's ways in those books. And then there's the father of the boy who was often thrown to the ground as if by epilepsy, described in Mark 9. The desperate father turned to Jesus. His faith was shaky, but he was sincere. "If you can help me, please heal my son," the dad pleaded. "All things are possible with those who believe," answered Jesus. "Oh, I do believe," answered the father, "but help my unbelief." And Jesus healed his son. And then there was John the Baptist. John had baptized Jesus in the Jordan River. John was known to have pointed to Jesus and said, "Look, the Lamb of God who takes away the sins of the world." But Luke 7 says John the Baptist from his prison cell sent Jesus' friends to ask Jesus, "Are you actually the one I told people you are? Because I kind of expected something more from the Messiah." And then there was Peter. Peter stepped out of his fishing boat at Jesus' invitation and joined Jesus on the surface of the Sea of Galilee. After a few miraculous steps, it dawned on Peter that he was actually walking on water, and he panicked. Jesus caught him just before he went under, and after Peter had regained his footing, Jesus asked him, "Why did you doubt?" A pastor friend of mine pointed out that Jesus didn't scold Peter for doubting. Jesus just asked an honest, non-accusatory question. What's going on inside you that caused you to doubt? That caused you to doubt, I am who I say I am and that I can take care of you. That's a pretty powerful puzzlement to pull over in passing and to ponder. What is it that is causing you to doubt? Is it maybe the scandalous behavior and hypocrisy of some Christian leaders? That's understandable. Maybe unanswered prayers. Perhaps you asked God for a miracle and didn't get it. That's tough. Maybe something your college professor said. There are lots of reasons for doubts and uncertainties. Lots of folks in the Bible had doubts and uncertainties, including Thomas. Let's read about that in John chapter 20.
Now Thomas, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put his hand into his side, I will not believe." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed."
I was sitting in a gym years ago watching a basketball game with a friend who was not a follower of Jesus. Out of the blue, my friend asked me if it's necessary to believe that Jesus rose from the dead in order to follow Jesus. Sincere question. Good question. I answered with words from the 15th chapter of 1 Corinthians, that without the resurrection, our faith is futile. And Romans 10:9 says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you'll be saved. So much hinges on whether or not we believe, really believe, that Jesus was dead on Friday afternoon and alive on Sunday morning. When we believe with all we are and all we have that God raised Jesus from the dead, then we're embracing the truth that Jesus is God the Son in the flesh, who lived and loved perfectly, who took upon Himself our sins and died and was resurrected, who lives today and is coming again, and that through faith in Him we have life at its best in an imperfect world, and then one day, life that never ends in a perfect world. See, there's a lot riding on whether or not we believe in the resurrection. Back to doubting Thomas. He began with, "I'm not convinced." Then, when he saw the fresh wounds in the hands of Jesus, he declared, "My Lord and my God." What would it take for you to move from "I'm not convinced" to "My Lord and my God"? What would it take for you to move from the doubter's pew to the mourner's bench? Garrison Keillor told of Magnus Olsen, a Norwegian bachelor farmer in Lake Wobegon. Mr. Olsen didn't join the Lutheran Church, Keillor explained, but he did attend every Sunday and sat in the back of the sanctuary on the doubter's pew. Maybe you're thinking, if the church had a doubter's pew, I'd be there. Well, okay. As I've said, this is a safe conversation. But what would it take to get you from the doubter's pew to the mourner's bench? The mourner's bench was a fixture in colonial churches. It was a literal bench down front in the altar area, a bench where people confessed their sins to God and asked for forgiveness and pledged to follow Jesus with their lives. What would it take to get you from the doubter's pew to the mourner's bench? Of course, I'm not talking about literal furniture. I'm talking about you moving from a spiritual place of doubt to a spiritual place of surrender and belief. What would it take? What if we could make the resurrection reasonable? I sat just a few weeks ago next to Dr. Neil Lamb, the CEO of this marvelous Hudson Alpha Institute. Dr. Lamb told me the following parable, which someone had shared with him. A parable about reason and faith. Reason and faith one day stood before a wall that enclosed the garden of God. It was a high wall, steep and difficult to climb. Reason, however, rather arrogantly decided to climb and cross the wall. Reason carefully approached the wall, looking for spots where he might get a good grip. Slowly, he began to scale the wall, testing each tiny edge or outcropping before placing any weight on it. He made progress. Eventually, however, Reason could find no more niches, no more ledges to place his feet or his hands. He could climb no higher. Exhausted, Reason fell to the ground. Faith was standing nearby, watching the unsuccessful attempt by Reason to scale the wall. "Out of my way, slowpoke," said Faith. Faith took a running start, leaped up on the wall, but finding no foothold, no place to get a grip, faith slid to the ground. Faith kept trying to scale the wall, but simply couldn't leap high enough to clear the wall and could find no way to grip and climb. Reason and faith then decided to work together to scale the wall. Reason began, slowly, intentionally, strategically inching his way up higher and higher. A toehold here, a handhold there. But there was a limit as to how far reason could climb. When reason could go no further, faith took a running start and leaped up onto reason's shoulders. Faith, now standing firm upon reason, then jumped to the top of the wall. From there, from the top of the wall, faith turned around, reached down, and pulled reason up to join him. Then together, faith and reason jumped off the other side of the wall and wandered into the garden of God. Of course, the point of the parable is that reason is very helpful, but it can get us only so far. Faith climbs up on the shoulders of reason and takes us where reason cannot. When it comes to the resurrection of Jesus, reason can get us a good ways up the wall. There is evidence for the resurrection of Jesus. For example, the early followers of Jesus, if they had invented the story, they would not have written women into the story as the first witnesses. For in those days, women were not considered credible witnesses. And if the resurrection were not true, if it had been a conspiracy, then surely one of the followers of Jesus would have cracked, given the pressure they were under, but none cracked. If the enemies of Jesus could have produced a body, certainly they would have, but they had no corpse to show. The tomb was empty. The resurrection launched the most popular religious movement in history. And the story of the resurrection has changed the lives of lots of people you know. You see, there are lots of reasonable reasons to believe in the resurrection. But in the end, reason will get you only so far. Now, faith is not unreasonable, not irrational. Faith is not a decision with no evidence behind it. Faith simply acknowledges that for all the things we can know, there are those things we cannot, and believes anyway. Faith is not a blind leap into the unknown. It is an informed step. Now, when we come back, I'm going to tell you about a day in Thailand when I flew.
Glory. The Honorable Claude Hunley joins us today, and he is the Circuit Court Judge here in Madison County. It's an honor to have you here, Judge.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Since you were appointed judge, you presided over the Adult Drug Court.
Correct.
What has that been like?
It's been a learning experience. I called the team together and met with them and asked them each to explain to me their role and what they brought to the drug court program and why they thought that was important, and to be very frank with me, because it was a learning thing for me. Not that I was questioning what they were doing, but I wanted to learn what all the moving parts did, and asked them to educate me. I said, because one day I'll figure it out, and then I'll figure out how I think it ought to be. But right now, I'm going to follow what you do. I'm not going to disrupt your world, but I want you to tell me what your world is. And that's kind of how I started it. Over that time, and I've been to national seminars and things like that, and state seminars and things like that, where I've learned more about it. And then obviously being involved in it myself, developed my own style for doing it. But I didn't have that obviously in the beginning. That had to come with working with it.
Travis often in his topics talks about standards and grace. And I cannot imagine being a judge, but you have to use that every day in your work.
Every aspect of it calls
Yes.
for it. The judges in Madison County, which can be a little different than some others, we all do, in the absent drug court, we all do the basic type areas. We all do criminal, civil, domestic. And so we see, one week we may be seeing criminals, next week we may be seeing civil matters between businesses and individuals and regarding money damages. And the next week we may be seeing family matters involving divorces or custody or support, child support or child abuse, which can be on the criminal side also. So it varies. So yes, you're called upon to deal with the legal aspect of things, plus what I always call the human side. Mm-hmm. You know, if it was all easy that you could plug it all in a book and say, into a computer program, say X, Y happened and should spit out Z. It's not quite that easy.
It's not AI.
No, it's not AI. Everybody always says, will AI replace? Well, they could replace anything, but it will never be able to figure out the human factor. When it comes to the specialty courts, though, it turned into a different matter because their view of things is different. The other courts, you're looking to see who's determine guilt or innocence. If there is guilt in the criminal side, you have to try to determine punishment, and then still take into consideration those matters that you mentioned, such as grace. Mm-hmm. You know, and then funny to that, we'll have every once in a while someone that will come in wearing a T-shirt saying, "You can't judge me; only God can judge you. Can judge me." And when they come up, you know, they took such a great time to pick their shirt that I think they need to be addressed. And so I would say, you are correct. Only God can judge you, but right now you got me. And so you're going to have to deal with me.
So, Judge, you mentioned the human factor when you make a ruling in a mm-hmm. sentencing. What goes on within you when you make those decisions?
I call upon probably everything that makes me who I am. But I don't leave home with a script. You know, I don't try to. Now, I will say that there are certain awful situations that I've thought about and have in my mind where they are, but that person has an ability to move the needle. Even when I sentence someone, when I study, I have a report that's done for me by my staff of my range. I said, just give me the range. I just need to know where my parameters are. I'll study the range. If I tried the case, I already know something about it. If it's a plea where I didn't try the case, I'll read what they have, and then I'll come up with a range. I have the state's range, and I come up with my range. Mm-hmm. And then where you fall in that range depends upon you. When you get there, you come there and you have your chance to move the needle. I don't tell them that, but they do. Mm-hmm. You know.
Well, Judge, we appreciate your expertise and your heart. And want to mention also that you were the first African-American circuit judge north of Jefferson County.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate you. Thanks.
All right.
We're talking about the resurrection of Jesus. we're recognizing that there are lots of reasonable reasons to believe in the resurrection. But in the end, reason will get you only so far. Belief in the resurrection requires faith. Maybe this will help. A few years ago, I was preparing to go to Chiang Mai, Thailand to speak to missionaries. Our daughter's father-in-law had been to Thailand, and before I went, he said, "Oh, while you're there, you must go on Jungle Flight, the big zip line course." Well, frankly, that was not appealing to me. I'm afraid of heights, seriously afraid of heights. But I couldn't let my daughter's father-in-law do something her own daddy wouldn't do. When I got there, I learned that 4 young missionaries were going to do the zip line the next day. So I signed up to go with them. At the zip line place, they took us aside and put all our helmets and harnesses on us. Our guide introduced himself. He said, "This is my first day on the job. Isn't that great?" "Just kidding," he said after an awkward pause. I didn't think it was funny. Soon I was standing on the first platform looking down, way down. It was over 160 feet from our platform to the jungle floor. That's about 13 or 14 stories. And it was a long way across to the next platform. This was a serious zip line course, and I was undeniably scared. I did some intellectual work. I looked at the equipment and it looked sound. Our guide, with the exception of his bad joke about this being his first day, seemed professional. And I knew that lots and lots of people had gone safely before me. So this was not an unreasonable activity. But there were things I could not know for sure. For all the things I could know, there were some things I could not. I eased up tentatively to the edge of the platform, my heart racing. And I took perhaps the most difficult physical step I ever have taken, a step of faith off the safety and the security of that platform into the unknown. And I flew like Superman and got a t-shirt, which I can't find. And if you're on the platform of faith, I invite you to consider the reasons to believe and the people who have believed before you. And I invite you not to a blind leap, but to an informed step, recognizing there are things we can know and some things we cannot. I invite you to place your faith for here and forever in the resurrected Jesus.
I love you, Lord. Oh, your mercy never fails me. And all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father. I've known you as a friend. I have lived in the goodness of God. Oh, and all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so I will sing of the goodness of God.
Tennessee Valley Church means church has left the building, so has membership. Here's what I mean. You might be feeling a need or maybe even a call from God to be part of our church family in a more tangible way. If you're not able to join us physically here at 600 Governors Drive, whether because of distance, mobility, schedule, or some other reason, you still can be a member of First Baptist Huntsville. Let me send you information on what that would mean, what you could expect from your church, and what your church would expect from you. Email me at travis@fbchsv.org. Let me know of your desire for membership, and I'll help you get started. Join hands with us as we attempt to join hands with God Himself in His mission to the world.